Well, good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us. This is a special prophecy update. I've titled this one Buckle Up. This will show you my little slide here. And I spent a lot of time photoshopping. And I must confess I used AI to make up some of my chess pieces yesterday, trying to keep them current and relevant. I had hopes to do a lot of sharing of articles and pictures of articles and all sorts of things, and it's impossible to keep up. So I decided that since I'm in the midst of a snowstorm, which you can see a picture of my backyard from about an hour ago, we currently have 10 or 11 inches, and it's supposed to go on for, somebody just give me a thumbs up, make sure we're hearing everything. You can hear everybody. So I invited some friends to join us today. Mark Sutherland from the Sutherland Report in the UK. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, sir.
And then Brian Schrauger with what's the Tipping Point Ministries? What's it called?
Tipping Point.
Tipping Point. And he does regular podcasts. You should follow both of them, Mark, at the Sutherland Report, Brian. And I'll put links after this is over to some of their articles, especially Brian has a lot on his Substack that I think is relevant and important. And I'll try to get a link to Brian. You did an interview, was it this week with Eric Mandel?
Yes, it was published last,
Monday or Tuesday?
Yeah, Monday. Tuesday.
Yeah, that was about 11 inches ago.
Right.
So we made so everybody, just so you know, so Fellowship Bible Chapel, our church is out in the country, about 30 miles north of Columbus, Ohio. And we decided yesterday that we were going to cancel, mainly because this forecast looked like we were going to get 4 or 5 inches of snow during church, which means people get there, but it's hard to get home. And so we just made the judgment call to cancel. I got up at about 4 a.m. this morning, looked outside. I'm guessing there might have been 2 inches. And so now here we sit at 10 a.m. and there's about 11. And it's supposed to snow for another 10 or 11 hours. So who knows what we're going to end up with. It's been all over the place. The forecast keeps changing rapidly. So anyway, so Brian is in Israel. Mark is in the UK. And we're just going to talk through a bunch of other issues. I have Olivier Melnick is also trying to join us, but he just texted me a short time ago and said where he lives in Texas, they went out of power. So they've had some ice down there. So pray that that situation resolves quickly. We don't want anybody to be without a power. So where do you guys think we should start?
I think your Donald Trump chess piece is a good place to start, John.
Well, okay. So I spent a substantial period of time yesterday curating different chess pieces. And why is this not? Hang on a second here. That one needs to be. Oops.
I just suddenly thought I should actually say good afternoon from the UK because it is good afternoon.
Well, it's good afternoon. It's good evening for Brian.
Right.
It's good evening for Brian. But let's say.
So I made up a Donald Trump chess piece, which I think is a phenomenal work, if I must say so myself. And then, of course, we have Jared Kushner, who's getting a lot of press because he is highly involved in this Trump Board of Peace. And so I made up that's bronze. That's the Medal of Judgment, by the way. And I think that's significant. There's another option that I had. I don't know. Vote in the comments which one you like the best, and we'll go from there. So so let's talk about Israel-Iran first. So we'll do Israel, Iran, we'll do Gaza, we'll do Syria. We might get to some stuff about Davos, and we're all old guys, so if we start nodding off, just we'll try to come back around and everything.
Speak for yourself, sir. Speak for yourself.
Did I share the screen on that, or did I forget?
You've forgotten.
Hang on a second here. See, this is why I have people help me, except they're supposed to do things. So there's my Donald Trump chess piece, and of course, that's the. So this is one we're going to talk about first, and then I should tell them that there's my Jared Kushner, the bronze.
By the way, I'm not seeing either one.
We're not seeing either one.
Okay, hang. Oh! I know why. I have to now click on share screen.
Brilliant. Thank you, John.
Okay, there we go. There's Kushner. Now, can you see it?
Right. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if he'll be calling me or not about that, but that's all option 2, and that's option 3. I kind of like option 3 myself, but because I think it kind of captures the essence. So we're going to talk about Israel, Iran, Board of Peace situation. Brian, what do you know about Iran and what's going on?
Well, it's interesting how quickly things change. A little over a week ago, we all thought an attack was coming. We braced for it, and it didn't happen. Everybody thought it was going to happen, including Israelis across the board who were prepared to go down to shelters again. It's no secret that both Israel and the U.S. have been consulting with each other about what to do. We don't know exactly what they've decided to do, but that consultation didn't end, even though the attack did not take place 10 days or so ago. Now it looks like it might be going forward. The USS Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, is almost in place, if not in place, near the Persian Gulf. And the commander of the Central Command, U.S. Central Command head guy was here in Israel, maybe still is, meeting with the head of the IDF. The Security Cabinet of Israel has been meeting. Ostensibly, what they will publish is that they're talking about Hamas in Gaza and what to do about disarming it and opening up a corridor that Jared Kushner wants them to open, even though they've not yet received back the body of the single remaining hostage that Hamas is holding on to. And this, by the way, has caused a big uproar in Israel. But, by the way, and also, you've probably seen that Khamenei has gone into hiding. He's gone into a bunker, supposedly. So, and a number of airlines have canceled flights to the Middle East.
Including Israel, Brian?
Including Israel.
Have any U.S. airlines done that yet?
I don't know if any U.S. airlines have. I don't have the list in front of me. I know that some British airlines did. I don't have it in front of me. I apologize for that. But I know that flights are being either canceled or diverted around the area, just like they were a couple of weeks ago, 10 days to 2 weeks ago. It looks, this is reading between the lines here, because there isn't reporting about what is being said, what is being planned, what is being done. We're having to read and interpret based on the signs that everybody has. That the military forces are in place by the U.S., that the U.S. and Israel are talking to each other. Khamenei's gone into hiding. The airlines have shut down, flying over in many places in the Middle East. So it appears that maybe the last time when we thought it was going to happen, the decision might have been that there weren't enough assets in place to pull off a meaningful attempt to perhaps bring down the Ayatollah regime. And again, we don't know. There's so many risks, so many unknowns here. But it could be that now that things are in place, the U.S. and Israel believe they have a plan to intervene. What they might do, whether it will be military or whether it will be a cyber attack or even taking an island which is just off the southern coast of Iran, which is where they store all their oil.
Carton Island, I think it's called. Yeah.
Yeah. One recent report argued that if we just took that island, that it would cause the regime to fall because they would no longer have any money. They could no longer pay anybody. They would fall without a lot of other military action. So we don't know, but the forces are in place. I can tell you that between the lines here and living here, there are things that are seen and sensed that you don't read about in the press. Mainly because everybody here has somebody, a friend, a relative who's in the IDF. And so we know, for instance, living here, that there's been a blackout and that Israel's been on high alert for the last couple of weeks. And that high alert continues to this day. So Israel is very much prepared for something. I can also tell you that it's across the board. If you in Hebrew media, Israelis are everywhere thinking, well, we thought over Shabbat that there might be an attack. We might be going down to air shelters, bomb shelters again. It didn't happen on Friday night. Didn't happen on Saturday night. This is Sunday. The time window that's been put out there is something like 24 to 48 hours. So something could happen even in the next 12, 24 hours, anytime. We don't know. So that's pretty much the situation, at least from an Israeli perspective, looking at Iran right now.
So let's kind of go through it. I put up a post by Melanie Phillips that said the Iranian people are facing a massacre. Let me sort of fill in the gaps that what you see playing there in the window is a spokesperson, former UN legal advisor on war crimes tribunals, special advisor on genocide to the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, and one of the world's leading international human rights lawyers, speaking yesterday at the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland. I think that's one of the things that Donald Trump has not taken over yet, but time will tell. The people of Iran are living through a nightmare. He said this is the worst mass murder in Iran's contemporary history. Our beautiful country has become a cemetery in which the hopes of our youth are buried. So the things that I'm getting from people about Iran are that it's the situation is very dire in terms of people. There are still protests going on in different cities. They did have I think somebody called it a digital gulag that they put on their people, where they shut down the internet. There's stories, though, of these very brave women and others smuggling Starlink routers into Iran so people could have internet access, but it's still a very small percentage of what it would be on a normal basis. It's hard to get a good number on how many are killed. I believe that the UN Human Rights Council has put out some information of somewhere near 20,000 killed, confirmed killed. But I have seen what I think are very credible reports that number could be as high as 40, 60, 80, or even 100,000, and that over 300,000 have been injured, and that there are 20,000 people in prison, and the prosecutors and everybody have said that they will they would be executed. And some of them have been executed summarily, even in hospitals and that type of thing. And the situation far exceeds anything in Iran's history. I think under the Shah, which everybody claims was such an oppressive regime, I researched it last night, and I'm pretty sure that the entire reign of the Shah, which was from about 1951 to 1979, but it included times leading up to the revolution. There might have been there were less than 3,000 killed during that entire time.
That seems low, doesn't it?
Well, it's one of these things where, right now, so let's say that the number is 60,000 or 8. I do believe these numbers are probably accurate. The regime is now, at least according to reports, the regime is now refusing to release bodies to the families. They're keeping the bodies because if Iran or if Israel or the United States attacks them, they will then trot out all these bodies as proof of the heinous crimes of Israel and the U.S. We're in the midst of this. I don't know how to describe it. This massive propaganda war machine, and the Iranians excel.
They do
at lying. I almost don't have the words to say the ability to say what I really think about it. Mark?
No, it's shocking. This whole doctrine of taqiyya, to lie, is part of their religious system.
Mark?
I think no, you're absolutely right. These are heinous crimes, and the way we look at things of what had happened in the past historically in regard to the Holocaust, in regard to what then had come out in Russia, etc., during the 20th century, and it's unimaginable. And then suddenly in 2026, we are facing this. If my calculations are right, and again, everyone, we're trying to assess information just like everyone else has access to that. So that 365 hours the internet has been turned off, or access to it in Iran, which according to the maths that I've just worked out on a calculator, that's just over 15 days, right? Then it's really interesting that various speakers, guests that suddenly appear on shows like Piers Morgan or other speaking on behalf of the regime, seem to have access to the internet. So we'll just leave that one there. We've seen the shots of, John, you're absolutely right when we talk about, when you've said 300,000, maybe 350,000 injured. The regime has been going into the hospitals, has been shooting people that have been protesting there, taking the bodies out. Some of the bodies have still got tubes in their mouth or other medical paraphernalia that's attached to the bodies. This isn't a plug for one of my interviews, but I was privileged to interview a lovely lady who's Iranian called Sega on my channel on Friday night. She has family out there connecting with people, and as she said to me, do not believe a single thing that the regime say. They, as Brian just said, taqiyya, they will lie. They will just, it's something that we in the West will refuse to get our head around this, or various people do. So I think on the figures, John, I think you're absolutely right, and I think the figures will be far higher. They are just horrific. And then if we look at what Israel has been through over the last 2 years, and all the accusations, and then look at what Iran has just done in a matter of days. I'm not it's not a case of comparing this, but we are comparing this when the whole propaganda and the way that's been used, and it's beyond words. And just finally, what does annoy me, where is the river to the sea cult right now protesting in regard to what is going on in Iran? Where are they? I can't see any of them on any of the major cities. I don't see them on the grounds of Berkeley or Harvard, Columbia University, or anywhere else. I'm not saying that to be sarcastic. I'm saying that because it just shows you where people are at, I believe, morally, and it looks like they are nowhere where we knew where they were in regard to what they've been expressing over the last 2.5 years. Then just quickly, John, Brian, it's looking at the armaments and who is then giving rearming Iran. What is going on here? Is China involved in that? Is Russia involved in that? Israel is very, very concerned, quite rightly, that American bombers may, and Israel, of course, in 12-day war, may have damaged the nuclear sites and their capability to fight back. But we're all concerned about the ballistic missiles and the ballistic capability. How do we deal with that? Brian, do we know at all? Is China rearming them? Is Russia rearming them? Are they putting in the mobile missile launchers? Are they arriving? There has been this comment that there's been planes arriving from Russia. I don't know. I just wondered if you could confirm anything of that again through the chatter.
I've seen reports that China is providing some kind of armament. I don't know exactly what they are. And I'm certain Russia is involved in this too, but that's just a personal conviction, not based on any third-party reporting.
Well, and also
here's a Friends of Israel post from X. Arab media and online sources claim China had carried out a large-scale airlift Iran in the last 56 hours.
Right.
16 Chinese cargo aircraft landed in Tehran, delivering military equipment and advanced air defense systems. Fine examples of human rights countries. Right. I'll just note for the moment that it was vaunted Chinese air defense systems that supposedly were in place in Venezuela.
I was about to say that.
That never got off a shot.
Yeah.
I have to tell you that, and by the way, I don't know if we'll get to it. We may forget. China is undergoing a purge, which Chinese watchers and insiders, Brian, I don't even know if you know this.
I do, yeah.
Is probably greater than any purge internally ever done by Mao in China or Stalin in the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Over the last few days.
Yeah, and the scuttlebutt I'm reading is that Xi is doing this in order to go after Taiwan. He may have had military people advising him not to do it, holding back, and
that could be.
He's made no secret of his desire to take Taiwan, and he's been sending out all kinds of signals that he's ready to do this. So that could be at least one factor behind this purge.
He wants to take Taiwan, and he wants the rest of the world, frankly, doesn't he, Brian? John, I mean that is what is going through his mindset. But this purge is fascinating on one level in how this is then being dealt with. So because somewhere in some of these people's minds there must be a sense of morality, as if to say, and also turning around and saying, no, you may want to attack Taiwan, but we don't think this is a good idea yet. We might not have enough atolls built out there and enough assets on. This is a real something to be praying about constantly at the moment. Yeah.
Well, it's sort of a race to the bottom as to who lies more or with greater impunity, China or Iran or Russia. Let's throw Russia in there too.
And speaking of, I've got to throw in that China and Russia have wonderfully been invited to and joined the Board of Peace.
Right. Yeah, I didn't have time to make up those chess pieces. It's I tried to do graphics. And by the way, AI did assist me in some of those that I put up there today. The first time I've really used it to help generate images, and I will tell you, it saves you a ton of time. But I'm concerned, and I'm not convinced China's going after Taiwan. China has also indicated that it might be going after Russian assets in Siberia, and the Taiwan is a smokescreen for that. But I don't know. Okay, we don't really know. It's sort of like we talked about all this Bible prophecy stuff. Let's be honest. A lot of times we don't really know till it actually happens or doesn't happen.
John, the other concern in regard to Iran is what is happening with the Kurds and Syria, as well. That's a major.
We will get to that in due course. So the regime is, so maybe we talk first about, and Brian, you probably know a little bit more about what happens if we get, if they get something in place. What happens if they attack Russia? I'm sorry. What happens if we attack Iran and either kidnap Khomeini or take out Khomeini? And I think this is honestly why Trump has not acted thus far. One, we didn't have the assets in the region to act. And two, I think he's concerned, and I think it's legitimate, especially in an election year. What happens if we do an attack? What's the other side look like?
Well, the big risk is that if Khomeini is taken out in one way or another, that there is not a leader or structure in place to replace him. And it could be the IRGC takes over the country, which would be far worse than Khomeini. They may be much more willing to use nuclear weapons, chemical weapons, and do things that even Khomeini would not allow. So was it Pahlavi, the crown prince in exile? He is doing a good job, it seems, to present himself as being ready to step in. But again, we are depending on reports that we don't really know how accurate they are. But one report I saw indicated that only perhaps 30% of Iranians were ready to bring him back. And so it's not like an overwhelming majority of people in Iran are ready to not only, I think they all want to get rid of the Khamenei and the Ayatollahs, but there's not a structure in place. There's not a person in place or a plan in place that seems feasible to immediately step in. So it's just a big question. We don't, Trump and Israel, we don't want to see it become worse there. And that's a real risk.
What do you think, Mark?
One of the people to follow on social media is the ex-Canadian politician Goldie, and because she is Iranian with some of her links, and she has been reporting like Maya Tusi over here, who's doing a great job, because Maya is also Iranian. As he reported recently, he hasn't seen his father, who lives out there for 10 years. They are saying that a lot of people, we've seen the footage, they are shouting the Shah's son name on the streets. I totally hear what Brian is saying in regard to how this could go. But there seems to be a unification around the Shah's son's name. And the other day they managed to put him via television on an Iranian channel. They were all sitting there watching whatever programs they're watching in between the chaos, and he then appeared, which I thought was rather interesting, and good that they've done that. How they've done that, we don't know, but good for them for actually doing that. Brian, I agree. I actually agree with you. I think the man is extremely sincere. We know that he's been in California all his life, and then for many years he would have had contacts with his family, with other people within Iran. He's a pilot, etc. So I think he is someone for them to gather around. But John, I also the concern is of what when you then corner a tiger, how is it then going to react? Right. As people said that after the 12-day war last year, they then turned around and said, well, maybe the tiger is far more of a paper tiger than we had imagined. And then we remember, if my memory serves me correct, in April 24, we remember the amount of missiles, Brian, that they threw into Israel in one night. Miraculously, we thank God literally for the amount of them that were blown up and the amount of damage that they didn't do, but there was certain damage done in the 12-day war. So it's unpredictable, and again needing a lot of prayer, because we're we're not dealing with sane people. And there's our favorite. Is that Mr. Witkoff? There's another story.
Yeah, that's a kind of a current story. We'll get to that in just a moment. So finish your thought there, Mark.
But no, I think this is all that we need to be praying about. The other thing is, if there is no strike from America, from the USA, with the amount of assets that they've got in there, I hate to think that it's all about the midterms. There's a lot to play in regard to the midterms. Otherwise, the Trump presidency is then hanging on a thread for the rest of the 2 years. And here we go again, impeach. It is about morally and just doing the right thing. I think the other thing is, I understand this from his base, that they will be concerned about putting boots on the ground. That's the last thing that they want to do. But it's very easy for me to make comments. I am not in the White House. I'm not in the Pentagon looking at the information that they are looking at. And also in regard to Israel, Brian, you raised it, which is, and John, America makes an action. Iran decides to take that out on Israel. God forbid. How does that then play out, frankly?
Yeah. So I'm going to welcome Olivier. I don't know if your mic's working or not, so you can try to say something. Are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, you're fine. So I've also brought in Olivier Melnick. We'll try to get him before his power goes out again. It's Texas, and they have a very bad grid down. Lots of oil and a bad grid. Great barbecue, though, by the way. But anyway, Olivier, welcome. Olivier is with Shalom in Messiah Ministries, has a active ministry within Israel, particularly ministering to different units in the IDF. Olivier, we're talking about Israel and Iran and what's going to happen. So what are your thoughts right now on that?
Hold on.
Okay. You there? So
Okay. All right. I think. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. I got you on my regular speaker. You were coming out of my folded laptop on the side, and I could hear faint. I could barely hear John holler, which is a blessing. Gentlemen,
may your memory be a blessing if you keep up with this.
What do you mean you could barely hear him? Olivier, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, gentlemen. Brian, Mark. Is this live or is this?
Yeah, we're live. This is
we're live. We're live, Olivier. What you've just said has gone out to the world.
And this will not be edited out.
No.
Okay, so I take back what I said about John Haller to the audience. He's my favorite speaker, my favorite friend. Checks in the mail.
Okay, we're all allowed a mulligan here. I'm a golfer, so we love mulligans. Breakfast ball, we call them.
And anyway, I'm joining late because I lost power literally 10 minutes before I was going to join in, so I have no idea what you covered already. I'm willing to just join in and listen in and not necessarily, So
we've been talking about Iran, and we're specifically talking about, what do you think is going to happen if United States Israel attacks Iran? What's it look like on the other side?
If the United States and Israel attack Iran?
Yes.
My concern is a lot of people look at it and they go like, oh, the minute the mullahs are gone, it's good. Israel is going to be recognized. We don't know that for sure. What we know is that if they get rid of the ayatollahs, That's a good thing. But it does not mean that by default they're all going to become friendly to Israel. So let's not jump the gun. Let's not go too fast on that. I don't know what you guys think from that.
Well, in my analysis, I always follow the great theological movie called The Godfather when thinking about Iran. And We know that even though Michael Corleone took out the head of the other crime families continued to exist because they're multi-layered. And I view Iranian government the same way. Just so people understand a little bit about the numbers we're talking about, and people have gone out in the streets. They're being gunned down in the streets. There are people, if they're arrested or they're taken to the hospital, the militias are going into the hospitals and shooting them, sometimes in the head. Sometimes they're shooting them in the eyes to not kill them, but to blind them. Because they're sending a message on all of this. So the numbers that I have is that the IRGC itself numbers about 100,000 people.
Dead?
I'm sorry?
Killed?
No.
No,
100,000 what?
100,000 men in the IRGC.
I think you scared me for a second. Okay, never mind. I misunderstood.
Well, no, by the way, we talked about the number of people killed, Olivier. There are very credible reports. Certainly, even the UN people are coming out and saying it's 16,000.
Oh, I've heard 40.
I've heard 40. I've heard 80 and 100 also. And I believe the higher numbers have tremendous amount of credibility. So the IRGC has 100,000 members, but they also have the Basij, I think they're called the militias, and they number. When you combine IRGC and the militias, you're probably talking somewhere in the order of 800,000 or more people. That's a very big force to overcome.
And these are all, and as far as we know, these are all loyal to Khamenei.
They're certainly loyal to the regime as long as they get what they want. If the regime did not allow them to operate the way they do, they would be like, there would be crime family wars, just like there are turf wars in The Godfather.
But they're not being paid right now. There's the money's worth nothing. So how far can you take that?
Well, but they also control their own. The IRGC controls their own assets, so we don't know what assets they have and what cash they're getting. I even heard an Israeli commentator, Haviv Rediger, the other day, Brian, saying that Iranian oil, while it's maybe not going out through Karg Island, it's actually going through Iraqi oil pipelines for distribution. So this is very, very complex. So just taking down, it's a very complex situation to do this. So the people in Iran are facing 800,000 to 1 million armed people.
John, they're also facing other people they're brought in to put down the insurrection, as they call it, from other countries, because they're saying
the people from Hezbollah.
Absolutely, I think that is an important point to make as well.
Right, and it's interesting that last week. I mean, this was so interesting about the Middle East. So I have headphones. Okay, so I get my headphones at church. I stick them in my, they're all wound up nice and neat. I stick them in my pocket and I get up to speak and it's all in a big knot. I don't know the physics of that, but that's kind of how, when you start talking about the Middle East, you have everything in a nice wound up thing. You stick it in your pocket and then pull it out and it's a bunch of knots, but it's still all interconnected.
The Gordian knot, yeah.
That's right. And I saw a video, a guy did the physics on how that comes about, but it also seems like there's a certain magic to it or occult aspect to it. I will say, I don't understand it. But anyway, and so everything is connected. So we know that there are militias coming in from Iraq and elsewhere, right? And Hezbollah and other people are being brought in to quell the revolution in Iran. But this week, we essentially left Iraq, the United States. Well, what's that going to do?
Yeah.
Now, there's a follow-on to that, and we'll get to that because that's Turkey and Syria and the United States. So let's back up for a second and let's go to the meeting that just recently took place in Israel with Netanyahu, Witkoff, and Kushner. And my understanding is a lot of people in Israel are a bit peeved at what's going on with the
a bit.
I mean, I don't know that, maybe we could use the Hebrew term for how they feel. I know they feel Witkoff, I think, is Meshuggah. Is that a fair? A lot of people do. I personally do. So anyway, Brian, maybe you start. And what's the feeling on Witkoff, Kushner, and all this, and how Israel feels about this right now?
Well, Witkoff and Kushner are coming into Israel, and they're very much attempting to, well, as Kushner actually said in a speech in Davos a day or two ago, he said, my message to Israel is calm down. Go ahead and, we're going to make things okay in Gaza. Just calm down. Don't get so wound up. Well, that really was not that helpful, and it did not provoke a lot of favor here, because Israelis know their enemy. They know who they're dealing with, and right now they're still dealing with Hamas in Gaza, who is still holding onto the body of this remaining hostage, Gavili, I think his name is, and they under the peace agreement they were supposed to release every single hostage, as well as be disarmed before we move on to phase 2, which is to bring in a new administration to Gaza. Well, what is happening right now is that phase 2 is being pushed ahead without everything being done. We have a hostage that has not been returned, and Hamas is not disarmed, and we're bringing in the Palestinian Authority, or some version of it, to run Gaza. Hamas is not going to go away. It might change its clothes, it might change its uniform or its name, but the ideology remains. It is a very, very difficult situation, and the almost Shangri-La image being put forward by Kushner and Wickner is, this multi-billion-dollar city that's going to be built in Gaza. It's going to be built up. It's going to be a thing of the future, and they are downplaying all of the on the ground, very real issues, especially the religious fervor, determination of these Islamists to destroy Israel. It's not going to go away by giving them a bunch of money or by building up a beautiful new city. So they came to Israel and met with Netanyahu, and there were some smiles for the cameras, but it was not reportedly an altogether pleasant meeting. And of course, people in Israel were out on the streets just last night in the tens and even hundreds of thousands protesting that that Israel's going to go ahead and fold and give into this pressure to open up the Rafah crossing into Gaza before this hostage has been released. And it all has political ramifications here too, because it looks like we have an election coming up, and we're seeing all the politicians here, especially Netanyahu, moving very much into campaign mode. So, and another thing I saw indicated that one thing that was holding Israel back from taking action with the U.S. was waiting until Kushner was gone. So when he flies out, Israel might do something. So that's what it looks like, at least from here.
Yeah, I have the same concern, and of course, I'm I'm dialing in from Texas. I'm not on the ground, like you are. But the fact that there's one one hostage left, and that Hamas is not disarming, and that Hamas is not going to change their ideology overnight or ever, for that matter.
Ever, yeah.
What they're doing right now, they're pushing, phase 2 prematurely, and it's going to encourage the people going like, see, we never give in. We know there's a little bit left that we did not give in, and they're already pushing forward. So now next time we can do a little more and a little more, or keep a little more on our side. So it's only encouraging Hamas, and like you mentioned, it's not just Hamas. From what I've gathered in my own research, up to 77% of Palestinians support what is going on from the side of Hamas. That's 3/4 of the. We're not talking Hamas. We're talking Palestinians in general in Gaza and in Judea, Samaria, and so. And maybe the number is off. Maybe it's a little less, a little more, but it's a lot more than just the Hamas terrorist. And I think that the danger, with Trump. And I've said this before, when John and I do shows to do podcasts together, we've talked about that. Is that Trump? One of the positive of Trump, first and second terms, is that he hasn't been much of a politician, more of a deal maker, and that can be very advantageous. But in some cases, it's not. And I think in anything to do with the Middle East, making deals is just it's not in the fabric of the Middle East. It's making moves by force in the Middle East. You just said, this is what we're going to do. If you don't, we're just going to eradicate you. And I know it sounds dramatic. It sounds terrible, but they don't respond to any. I'm talking about the Hamas and Palestinian and Islamists. They don't respond to anything but force. And so I think that right now Trump is in his cabinet, they're approaching the whole situation as, let's make this deal, let's rebuild this region. It's never going to be rebuilt. That's not what they want. They won't let that happen. They will let them. They will let the world think that this is the direction it's going into, but parallel to whatever they're going to rebuild to make it look like the Riviera in the Middle East, they'll start rebuilding tunnels or whatever else they do next to prepare for another October 7th. That's my take.
Yeah.
Well,
Mark, you listen. I sent you, Mark, listened to a video, and I don't know if Brian and Olivier have seen it, from Haviv Rediger about Hamas in Gaza. Mark, you watched it. Do you want to summarize that for us? I'll try to link it in the show notes.
No, thank you.
Very fantastic analysis.
Well, basically, and it's following on from what Brian and Olivier were brilliantly saying, is the fact that, as Haviv said, he said the Hamas they've spent years and years and everyone else's money that was put in there to build this incredible tunnel system that was well beyond anyone that's used that means, like, say, for argument's sake, in Vietnam, well beyond that in regard to do what they did and then to carry on that. Everyone's heard the figures. It's bigger than it's as big as the London Underground, if not bigger than the New York subway. The infrastructure of that, as Haviv reminded us in a great piece for 8 minutes, some of those tunnels, I can't even compute this, 200 feet down. We think of what the appalling conditions the hostages were in, from anyone from days to 2 years to then, with the recent release, and actually to cope with that. All the infrastructure, the fact that, as he reminds us, had air conditioning, the fact that electricity, whether that's via a hospital care of UNRWA, which is another interesting subject, and also to say that I think their headquarters in Jerusalem has just been knocked to the ground. So all of this that we have been funding, I mean, he raises all this and just says the ideology. This is what's difficult for the West to get beyond. The ideology, that is their ideology. That's what they've done. They do not care about the people that live in Gaza. They do not care whatsoever. They are used as human shields, etc. And just for the record, and everyone can support me in this, that actually the population in Gaza over the last just over 2 years, in regard to when Hamas came over the border on the 7th of October and attacked, the population in Gaza has been increasing. So we'll just put that on the table as well. But John, you're absolutely, Haviv's summary of the infrastructure and the mindset, that picture, which looks something off a modern representative of the Wizard of Oz, the lines that are missing, John, is the fact that all they would do is then just rebuild the tunnel system, and potentially that just be like a film set on top, because that is what their ideology says. And this is what he was raising.
It would be interesting. I would love to be in one of these press conferences and ask Kushner and Witkoff all of these big, beautiful plans for building these things in Gaza, Gaza Lago, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
The infrastructure, the materials that are needed to build this, does it bear any relation to the maybe 1,000 miles of the materials used to build what are some people are now saying 1,000 miles of tunnels in the small area of Gaza? I'm going to guess there's pretty much a correlation between Hamas could have done this. In Haviv's thing, it's on Facebook. I don't know. I saw it on Facebook. And he said, this shows their ideology. Their ideology is never about making peace with Israel.
No.
And by the way, Haviv there's a lot of people in Israel, people that I respect, that used to be, they were pro-Oslo and two-state solution and all of this other stuff. And now they've had the reality of the situation smack them in the face like a sledgehammer. And they don't talk about the two-state solution anymore. But stupid politicians in America, like Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, and yes, they're politicians, and in many respects, I think, Qatar agents.
Yeah.
But that's for another hour talk.
John, they're compromised. Sorry.
Hamas wants to destroy Israel.
Yeah, they're compromised because their business dealings with Qatar. Let's just put that on the table.
I have a question. I was talking yesterday to one of our assets that we work with our ministry contact that we have in Israel with the IDF, and I was asking him, so what's the latest with Gaza, because he's been in and out of Gaza, and he goes, well, and I said, what do you think? I asked him, what do you think of phase 2 being implemented? And so my reaction with him was like, don't you think it's crazy, premature? He goes, well, I think, and that was his take, and I want your feedback, your opinion, you guys. I'd be interested to hear that. He said, it looks like Trump and his team are putting everything in place to show that they're moving forward in good faith to really do what's necessary to be done in the right direction. And basically, if Hamas is going at the first sign that Hamas is really messing up, then they're going to go, okay, now we have all, the door is open to do whatever we want to finish the job. Is that do you think that would be they're not talking about it, but that's the way that maybe they're approaching this thing. So let's keep moving, because it's close enough that we can say we can start rebuilding. But if Hamas does something really bad, which we know they will sooner or later, then we have the reason, the excuse to just go and eradicate and maybe even say, okay, we'll just flatten the whole place and move on. Is there credence to that? What do you think?
Well, there's talk about it, but it also is recognized to be a huge problem, because if they do, as justified as it would present a balagan, a total mess for Israel in terms of public relations with the world, because once again we would be seeing human Palestinians being killed, all that propaganda would come back out again. And it would be very, very damaging to a country that is, frankly, pretty worn out. After 2 years of war, the reserves are exhausted. I don't know that we could get the number of troops that are needed back to do the job as well as it should be done. It is.
Brian, can you explain that just a little bit? Because, we're sort of in the United States, we're used to, like, if there's a draft and there's a war and you get called up, you go. But it doesn't necessarily operate that way in Israel. Is that right?
Well, if you're in the reserves and you're called up, it's considered a patriotic obligation to go. And because men and women who have served in the IDF tend to be very, very, very loyal to each other and to their given divisions where they've served, most of them have shown up. But we're talking about people who are in their late 30s, 40s, even 50s, who have jobs and businesses to run, who've not been able to go to those jobs or businesses for half of the last 2 years, half the time.
Yeah.
And they've left their families behind. And they're coming home to wives and children who don't know them anymore, wives and children who've had to make adjustments to living without dad, or in some cases without mom. And so these reservists come back, and they're maybe an hour away from their homes, right? But they have been in hell in Gaza and sometimes in Lebanon, and they come home, and suddenly it's do the dishes, prepare the meal, get a budget for the business, do sales calls, wait tables, drive taxis, and be normal. And that's such a huge, dramatic shift for these people that it is causing, well, it's a huge problem here. We have a high level of PTSD, and we're only beginning to see it. Right? It's getting bigger and bigger. But there's a problem of suicides all over the place from people who've served and come home, and they can't adjust. It's not going to be easy to go back into Gaza and do a big military operation, have the whole world once again screaming in Israel, protest against Israel, and with forces that are worn out. I hope that doesn't happen. I really do. I understand.
By the way, while I'm thinking about it, we all need to extend our congratulations to Brian Schrauger, who this week became a grandfather for the first time.
For the first time, yeah.
Mazel tov.
That's a very positive side of life. Thank God.
Yes. Isn't it? It is kind of it's just kind of a juxtaposition to what's going on in the world. And this, by the way, is the way Israelis are. I mean, they celebrate. They go to parties. I went to a wedding the other night. Lots of dancing and drinking and eating and lots of food. And and we go home and wonder if we're going to be running to bomb shelters. So this kind of going back and forth from celebration to existential threat is just the way it is here. And I was talking to a friend at the wedding a couple of nights ago, and we were discussing how people who don't live here don't really understand what it's like to see missiles coming in from Iran and knowing that they're targeting you from Yemen, the Houthis in Yemen, and that you have dear friends, family members who are in Gaza, and we don't know what they're doing, but we know that they're putting their lives on the line, and living with that is a reality that I wish there was some way to just to help people understand what it's like to live in it, not just look at it from afar.
I'm listening to you, Brian, and I understand, because we have experienced firsthand with the people that we are helping for the last couple of years with the issue of PTSD, and we're trying to do whatever we can to help from our end. And I understand the thinning out of the reserve and the difficulty of going back into Gaza. But where I don't agree with you is when you say we don't want Israel to again have this, this bad reputation, with the world. Brian, we never had a good reputation on a very good day. What's the difference? Right now, the day after, on October 8th, the world turned against us on a global scale. So who are we trying to fool here, trying to maintain a reputation that we don't have on a good day? I mean, I know it sounds terrible, but I'm not hopeful that Israel is doing the right thing. They're going above and beyond. And when you look at conventional warfare, Israel is the only country in the world in the history of mankind to go above and beyond to maintain the sanctity of human life. And we know that. The four of us know that very well. That being said, Israel is still the genocidal country, the apartheid country, the colonizer, the occupier, no matter what. So what's the difference? I don't think they're being seen right now by their enemies in any better light than they would be if they actually did something.
Yeah. So it's a difficult situation. Let me give you some of my thoughts, and you can comment on them, and then maybe we'll, since we're only an hour into this, and we've talked about maybe one little teeny tiny part of one of many topics, but and I don't remember where I saw it. It was one on one of the JNS programs. A security expert was talking, and he said the Trump plan is, well, I'm going to paraphrase. It's absolutely insane. This Project Sunrise, or whatever they're calling it now, Gaza Lago, and this international stabilization force. They're bringing in Qatar, Turkey. So now there's 8 Muslim countries on the Board of Peace, which, by the way, the Board of Peace Charter doesn't even mention Gaza. It's a much bigger thing that Trump has in mind. He's the CEO. And you know what? He's the president, okay? He has a lot of authority under our Constitution to do things with some checks and balances. And here's my take. Okay, set up your Board of Peace, President Trump, and I'll come down to Mar-a-Lago and play golf, and I'll fill your earful if you'll listen. You own the peace thing everywhere in the world now. It's your baby. All conflicts, go for it. Now, that's my opinion. I'm not happy with it, but somebody made an interesting point. And Mark, you remember this. We were up at Metula, and we were up at Metula back in November on the Lebanon border. We saw the UNIFIL patrols there in the area along sort of the border fence between Israel and Lebanon. And the point that was made by this commentator on JNS was, listen, the International Stabilization Force will probably end up like UNIFIL did in Lebanon, where it was co-opted by Hezbollah. Mm-hmm. And terror bases were built in proximity to UNIFIL bases, because this is what Hamas did all through Gaza. They built the tunnels, knowing that to get the tunnels, Israel had to destroy Gaza. Everything that happened in Gaza is on Hamas. Everything that happens in Lebanon is on Hezbollah and Iran. Let's be honest about it. But the concern is we're going to go down and we're going to set up this international stabilization force, and we're going to build bases and all this other stuff. And Hamas is still there.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the same thing that we've seen over and over and over again. Yep. Your comments.
Yeah. No, I agree. It will be a repeat. It might take a little while, but it'll happen again. And again, I think the four of us will agree. It's because of an unchanging ideology. You can reform the infrastructure. You can bring all the countries to help that you want. At the core, the ideology of the Islamist is to just kill whoever's in the way of their agenda. And so, I mean, it's not going to work.
One of the things that Haviv pointed out, sorry, I forgot to say this, when he was talking about the tunnel system, but as you've just said it, John, and Olivier has as well, which is Hamas got the reaction that it wanted. E.g., they knew that Israel would have to go in to Gaza. Who wouldn't? And Olivier quite rightly has raised the point that on the 8th of October, we look at how the whole press, the people, the marches on the street immediately, they were outside the Israeli embassy in the UK going, we're asking for restraint. And we know when we've discussed all the Telegram groups that started, all the GoPro, everything else, they were ready there. They were pushing that out. And that is the whole propaganda machine that they have come against in a major way over the last 2.5 years.
Right. And when this Qatar, Saudi Arabian compromised Jared Kushner stood there in Davos and said, well, the problem is Israel doesn't have good public relations. Jared, I watch the world. You have the worst public relations of anybody on the planet right now. You need to shut up. That's my opinion. Sort of.
No, you're right.
I get really exercised about it.
John, tell us how you feel.
Well, I listen, I am self-censoring on a level I've never self-censored in my life right now.
I can't believe it. But it is about people. People have said this with context friends I have, and Israeli journalists and all the rest within the press have said, Kushner and Witkoff are compromised because of the business links. We are not making any of this up. So that is not good. And then, as people have said, we look at Qatar. Remember, all the Hamas leaders were living there, and then all their funding of the American and other education systems establishments, including in the UK, over the last 30 years. It was covered far better than I could on a wonderful JNS interview when they talked about this. The plan. We now have a plan. We are now going to go for this big time, and that is what I know. It shocked me. It shocked many people. How then but those in the know would know what was going on in universities and the colleges. But it's how that all came out on the street in a major way. But that's been their investment for 30 years. So Mr. Witkoff and Jared Kushner have to ask themselves a very, very important question. They know all this. So how can you continue to deal with these people?
It seems to me that the underlying assumption by Trump, Witkoff, Kushner in going forward in their negotiations is that prosperity is going to moderate extremist ideology. It doesn't. I mean, all we have to do is really look at Qatar. Qatar's extremely wealthy beyond anything that we can imagine. And it hasn't done anything but moderate their ideology. It's made them much more clever in terms of promoting that ideology and supporting those who are advocating an Islamist agenda of jihad, which begins with the destruction of Israel and moves toward a worldwide caliphate. That hasn't gone away because they're prosperous. It won't go away in Gaza. It won't go away anywhere in the Middle East just because the place might make a bunch of money.
That's a very good point. Now, if Iran, if U.S. and Israel go after Iran, and Iran basically is no longer in a position to be the current sugar daddy of Hamas and Hezbollah, will Qatar fill that vacuum?
I'm not sure what you're
financing the Hamas and Hezbollah, because we always hear that Iran is behind all those proxies and they're financing. But if they're right now Iran is, they're not in a place of their currency.
They can't give the money, right.
So would Qatar just fill that vacuum and become the new funding entity for terrorism, which would really be odd if they're also at the same time a part of the peace team?
That's exactly
Yeah.
what they've been doing. It's not new. That's exactly what they've been doing, and that's the game they're playing. And because
Absolutely.
they're offering a bunch of money to businessmen who measure success by money, they're able to play both sides, and they're doing it very well.
John, I wonder. Sorry, Olivier. I wonder what role Turkey would then play within that, with all the other things that they've been up to in regard to Syria and overseeing that change there. John, I wonder what your thoughts there.
They're all enemies of Israel to start with. So it's like trying to reform Germany, after the Nazis have been defeated, and France is saying, "Hey, we're going to ask Italy and Mussolini to help us run Germany." That's it. If you know a little bit about history, you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. That's a big issue because people seem to be forgetting history, Olivier, don't they? Very quickly, and they're not learning from that.
We've beaten the dead Trojan horse of Qatar for a while now. It's interesting. The world players making up graphics so supremely easy to demonstrate where they're really coming from. But let's talk about Syria for a little bit. So let me set this up a little bit, because Syria, Turkey is a very big deal. And, we talk about Bible prophecy. This is a very big deal from a Bible prophecy standpoint. So I'm going to go back to December 8th, 2020. December 8th, 2024. Jihadis under the leadership of a guy named al-Jilani at the time. He now calls himself al-Shara, or as one of my new favorite commentators, Ruth Wasserman Landy, calls him al-Sharia, has taken over. So she's very good and clever at the way she kind of puts that big arrow or missile in there as to what she really thinks. And by the way, Syria, Brian, the guy we really think knows a lot about Syria is Jonathan Spire. And so Jonathan and I are exchanging messages right now about scheduling, hopefully this week. And if Brian's available, he'll participate in an interview of Jonathan Spire.
I saw him at that wedding on Thursday night. And I said, have you talked to John yet? So he said, no, I need to do that. So I'm glad he's gotten in touch.
I always like to have my friends serve as agents to guilt people on responding to me. So thank you so much. But anyway, so al-Shara took over Syria. On the 1-year anniversary of that, on I-24 News, Ruth Wasserman Land, and I'll summarize it. I've played the video many times in my updates. And I do that because these are sort of critical, important things. She said, listen, this is 1-year anniversary. We need to come to grasp the issue that Syria no longer exists, that it's a facade for Turkey. And I think she's right. I mean, it was clear that Erdogan, even Trump trolls Erdogan publicly about, I know you were behind that. It was very clever what you did and that type of thing. But over the last week, as if we didn't have enough other stuff to talk about, Erdogan has hated the Kurds. And Brian, you have a little more experience with this than anybody, because you've been to Erbil at least once or twice, I believe. And that's the sort of the capital of the Kurdish people there in Iraq. Right. And now al-Shara, and so as things are a mess elsewhere, Iran's melting down, Erdogan and al-Shara go after the Kurds. And now the U.S. is sort of apparently with this guy who, by the way, if I think that there's questionable ethics and corruption on the part of Kushner and Witkoff, you can raise that bar many, many times for Thomas Barak the envoy, the ambassador to Turkey, and the special envoy to Lebanon and Syria.
Yep.
This guy is corrupt on a level. I don't know, Mark, if you were there when we were at the media summit. I talked to the great Robin Osman. You should follow her on social media. Very powerful spokesperson for Israel and the Jewish people. She's from Lebanon. She's I think she had a Sunni father and a Shia mother. She hated Jews, and then she met them, and now she's moving to Israel. But I mentioned Barak to her, and she was just like, "Don't mention his name. He's so corrupt."
Yeah.
So what's happened though is that, and this appears to be playing into these talks between Israel and Witkoff Kushner just over the past 12 hours, and some of the things that I'm seeing on my social media, on X especially, and it seems to be correct. So I sent it to Brian. I've sent it to, I don't know if I sent it to Olivier. I know I've sent it to Mark. Somebody said, listen, what's really going on is much bigger than we think. That Erdogan's goal is to get rid of the Kurds. And he has gone to Witkoff, apparently, not Witkoff, Barak, and then convinced the administration, at least this might be part of the stand down in Iran, that listen, we'll take care of the Kurds. We're going to be, kumbaya. Everybody loves everybody. Nobody should believe that for a minute from Erdogan, who is a dictator and one of the biggest liars on the world. But we'll then take these militias. We're going to go into Iraq, and then we will go into Iran to give you people on the ground, because I don't see how the Iraq thing or Iran thing unwinds the right way without people on the ground. It's a very, very complex operation. So the thinking is that they've convinced at least people in the Trump administration will do this. And there's word coming out of Israel today that the meeting with Witkoff Kushner involved a lot of people taking up the carrying the water for Turkey. They like Turkey. He's a strong man. He's going to get everything done. And there's picture after picture of Kurdish women being taken away as sex slaves, their hair being cut off. And now report after report that in Syria, even though the U.S. says we're going to put a stop to it, opening these ISIS prisons, and thousands of ISIS fighters have now been released into the wild.
Yeah.
So, Brian, I mean, when I was there, 2017, Pam and I went up to the Golan. You're very familiar with the Golan, Brian. And I made a wrong turn on a road up there, and I ended up next to a UN sign on a dirt road in the Golan, and it was by the border fence.
Mm-hmm.
And I followed the news. ISIS is on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, hopefully up on Mount Bental or whatever, where the Israeli listening post is, they were sort of watching like, look at that idiot American down there. We'll go help him if we have to, but let's just watch him back out of this one. And I did back my car up down the dirt road to get out of there because I knew it was probably not a good place. But now all of these people are being released. What do you think is going to happen? Go ahead. Brian, you can go.
It's not a good thing. That's for sure. Al-Julani has an Islamist agenda. That's become very clear in the last few months as he's attacked the Druze in the south and the Kurds in the north, and now the Kurds in the east, northwest, and now in the east. And he's ruthlessly putting them down. His forces are doing this. So he's an Islamist in a nice suit, and he's playing a game that is well received by the West because he looks good. He's not wearing a turban. He's wearing a coat and tie. But he is an Islamist, and we're seeing that very clearly. And then, of course, Iraq is very much a wild card, because you've got the Kurds, and you have the Iraqis, and others who are not. It's not a country. It's several states, if you will. Northern Iraq is actually Kurdistan, and we're seeing a lot of unrest there. It's not a good thing. All of these forces, even though they sometimes fight each other, are serving an Islamist agenda to bring in a caliphate, to rule the world under the law of Islam. So ISIS being freed, I guess they're willing to tolerate that for right now, even though they're regarded as enemies who are fellow Islamists, but still enemies. It's not a good thing. It's a very, very disturbing situation.
I want to ask you, Brian, because you've been to Erbil. It has kind of an interesting layout, sort of a big fortress and a high point in the middle of the city.
Yeah, the most ancient part of Erbil is right in the middle there, and it goes back. It's one of the oldest cities, and some argue it's the oldest city in the world. And there's a very, very strong presence there of what's her name?
Esther?
No, the idol that was worshipped there, the Babylonian goddess was there, and she has shown up all throughout history. Anyway, she was honored there, and you can still sense that very, very Holy Spirit there.
So I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Why is the U.S. built? So we built a huge embassy in Baghdad. We've spent about $5 billion building an embassy in Beirut, which nobody ever talks about. Why are we doing that? And the next biggest embassy in the United States, I believe it's larger than the U.S. embassy in Moscow, is in Erbil.
Yeah, it's huge. I've been around it, walked around it. It's a huge compound. Yeah.
Okay, so what's going on?
I don't know. That's a good question for Jonathan Spire.
Okay.
So yeah, get him on, because this is his area of the world. He's there all the time, and he'll have, perhaps, I think, the best insights we can get about that.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to run out, you guys. I'm gonna have to say goodbye. It's been fun being with you guys, but I need to get going. So can you handle this whole thing without me? Just kidding.
Yes, we'll
Olivier, nice to meet you. Take
Nice
care.
to meet you.
You might
Olivia.
want to listen to the live stream, because we'll be talking about you.
Oh,
Just relax.
But may God forgive you in advance.
Okay. Hey, Olivier, thanks. You could just click on Leave Studio, and I really appreciate it. There'll be a link in the show notes on how to get in touch with Olivier. Shalom.
All right. And then, John, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Hopefully,
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
we'll do the podcast tomorrow. Yeah, I'll send you a link. God bless you guys. God bless all of you watching. Keep watching. Keep your eyes in the sky and one eye in the Bible. God bless.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Okay, so Olivier's leaving, but we're going to let me remove him from the studio, and then he can click out. But
John, can I just remind you of something, of a comment? Tell me if I'm wrong. What Barack said at the Doha Forum when he was.
Go ahead. It's just.
I mean, he basically. Right, Brian. I don't know if you saw that. There are so many inputs we're trying to keep an eye on. But at the Doha Forum, he's blaming Israel. He said the only issue that's standing in the way, is Israel. And did he at that point, was it about praising kings and strong people and all that? Was all that part of the conversation?
I know that Trump has been praising the strong people. Trump says we want strong leaders on the board of peace, because they get things done. I didn't see his Melnick's presentation. I will go look for it now. I have access to the video of the whole thing where he spoke, but I zeroed in on Kushner and Trump, but not yet Melnick.
But no, this is a comment.
You mean Witkoff, or
you mean Witkoff? Yeah,
I'm sorry. Yes.
But this is a comment that Tom Dudar made at the Doha Forum, and then it's just to remind ourselves of the other people may think it's not related, but these are the other things that go on. John, tell me where it is, but there's a conference, and a state conference very within the next day, maybe even carrying out now, where Tucker Carlson is in attendance, Piers Morgan supposedly going, Hillary Clinton, and Richard Branson, and they will all be.
I think Bill and Hillary are going to be there.
Right. This is it happening in
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. So, look at all these connections. Look at all the people that will be meeting there. I'm sure they'll be having some incredible conversations in the green room and working out who they can then mix with. But without being too sarcastic, the situation with the Kurds is awful. And remember, I'm not just being clever, but if we go back in history, and as people from 1897, they really have sought their own land. They've wanted their own country, and it's been like a protectorate that they have then created. Thank you, John. Brilliant. And of course, our favourite descendant straight from the Nephilim. There he is, top left.
Lurch, yes,
Lurch, as we were saying yesterday. But no, what's happening with the Kurds then throughout the history, and remember when they gassed so many killed by Saddam Hussein awful, I just feel they're being really, if I may say so, totally and utterly sold out, John and Brian, and it's deeply alarming.
It's called the Real Estate Future Forum. What do these guys know about real estate? Well, Branson owns some. And Lurch and Hillary, they only know real estate about giving it away to bad people, I think. I don't know. This is a very weird world that we live in. So people, you need to watch the situation in Syria, the Kurds, Iraq, and Turkey. Now, there's probably going to be a war between Iraq and Syria, I think. The Kurds are caught in the middle. And there are some bad Kurds. We don't deny that. But the Kurds were really instrumental in beating back ISIS.
Absolutely.
And now they've lost control of the prisons. And there are tens of thousands of these guys coming out of prison. I've seen the videos.
Yeah.
And they're immediately coming out and they're saying things like, yeah, now we're going to go finish off the Jews. That seems to be a sort of a unifying factor among all of these. And the Kurds, who've been allied with Israel for a while, they're a problem, and I believe some of them went to help out the protesters in Iran, and that's why militias came from Iraq to get rid of those guys. I mean, by the way, there's a lot of unrest in the world right now. So the thing that so I use the chess pieces as kind of a what's his name? Zbigniew Brzezinski wrote a book, The Grand Chessboard, or something like that years ago. So I sort of picked up on that theme when I use these chess pieces, and now everybody seems to be doing it. So here's the new cover of Time magazine: Trump's next move. And there was something in there. I'll try to find it. Well, I know the Times of London had a thing about chess also, and they talked about, in Time, they sort of talked about the world is coming apart. So, okay, so the next thing we got to talk about, if I can find that graphic, I don't think I can. Hang on. Oh, here we go. Here we go. I got it. So this is in Time magazine. I like the imagery that people use sometimes because I think that's kind of telling the way things are. They think they're going to go. A world in transition. Boy, that seems to be the case. Okay, so let's go to, and maybe, by the way, folks, I'll be doing, we've got a lot of snow here in Ohio, probably not going anywhere. I don't even need to go to Costco right at the moment, so that's how prepped I am. And I got a full tank of gas, but I can't go anywhere anyway. But so I'll be doing some other things. So Davos this week had a lot of stuff on AI. Our beloved little imp, Yuval Noah Harari, was there speaking. And I'll cover that in a separate thing. And I do have another technology roundtable coming up on February 11th. And that's going to be mostly a Q&A one, although I'm thinking we need to do a substantive one and a Q&A one. So at least February 11th will be a Q&A roundtable. So start submitting your questions, and I think my moderators and people on here can kind of tell you where to go to submit your questions. And we won't answer all of them. But so let's go to the other thing that happened this week. And this is a bit of a firestorm. It's led to a lot of discussion in the Christian Media Summit group. And this was a letter, I'll try to find it and pull it up here. The patriarchs supposedly wrote a letter about Christian Zionism. So let me find the letter, but we can start talking about it. Mark or Brian, go ahead and start discussing.
Well, what you're going to see in the letter is a demonization of Christians who support Israel, and it's not a new thing here. It's been in Israel for some time, and the objection is that Christians who support Israel are really worshiping Israel instead of Yeshua, instead of God. They're making an idol out of being pro-Israel, which of course we are not, and it's saying we're causing more harm than good. We are bringing trouble into the world. We're promoting Israel's abuses. This is a narrative that really comes straight out of a conference that's been held here every 2 years since 2010 called Christ at the Checkpoint, and they have recruited these mainstream ancient churches, the representatives here. And it's not a surprise here. It's like, oh yeah, well, okay, we expect that. One thing that seems to really upset them is that Israel has responded so positively to Christians who are supporting them, and they don't like that. And
right, that sort of came out of, there was like 1,000. Well, there was a Christian Media Summit.
Right.
There were also some. I think in September there was another group of Christian influencers.
1,000 pastors or something,
and then
like
1,000 pastors through. I think Friends of Zion and Mike Evans and others were there in November, I think, or just recently.
They're stealing the spotlight, and the things they bring up are just, to me, they're worrisome. I've heard them so much throughout the years here that it just kind of like, well, we're going to keep hearing this.
Yeah, Mark, what's your take?
I think the timing of it is rather interesting, and I completely and utterly understand why Brian has said this is worrisome. That, in many ways, there's nothing new, and I'm reflecting on the UK, and I'm looking at our history. I'm looking at how in the late 1800s, in regard to the Victorian times when they were helping to buy land in Israel, in that region at that time, and the fact that replacement theology is so endemic within our own country, And when you challenge some of these people, to me, they don't. I just think, well, you haven't read respectfully. You haven't read the Bible properly.
Exactly.
And
Exactly. Yeah.
and we're not making it when they accuse us of making it an idol. No, but this is what we're called to do.
Biblically.
Isn't it? Biblically. No, Brian, brilliant. Thank you. I cannot believe at times, I know I won't name them, but certain individuals over here that have gone down this replacement theology line. But just quickly, Brian, was it you that said to me last week when you said that liberation theology then has crossed to Palestinianism? This whole push along all those lines. Yeah. Go on.
Well, you were mentioning your exposure to liberation theology in Latin America, I believe, a number of years ago, which is where that theology originated. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's a theology that argues that Yeshua's redemptive purpose was to liberate humankind from injustices, right? In the here and now. And it's a focus on that, not at all on redemption from sin or deliverance from sin.
Absolutely.
Or atonement for sin. It takes a secondary, tertiary aspect of the gospel and makes it the primary thing. And that died out in Latin America, but it resurrected very much in Jerusalem, in Eastern Jerusalem. And it is taken root and now is being promoted primarily by this Christ at the Checkpoint Coalition, headed these days by Dr. Munther Isaac, who pastors a church in Bethlehem, a Lutheran church, the Bethlehem Lutheran Christian Church, something like that. Oh, Bethlehem Lutheran Christmas Church, and something along those lines. And he has gained he's been given a platform all around the world. He's been given audiences with the heads of the Anglican Church, with the Pope, and with Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson, brought him onto a program, and he, spouted all this anti-Israel Palestinian theology to the world, and presented it as what Christianity is. So liberation theology turned into what is here now called a Palestinian liberation theology or Palestinian theology. It's the same thing, but it's more than insidious than just social justice. It's saying that social justice is the essence of the gospel, and it isn't. That's a different gospel that's being preached. Entirely different gospel.
Absolutely, and it's why if we look at the Prime Minister over here, Starmer, Macron, Albanese, and their left wing, so the left turn around and say to build the utopia without God, we need to change all these institutions. We need to change what people are then born into. It's not original sin, and they won't face that issue because that then goes on to social gospel. Liberation theology is what America's dealing with, what we're dealing with, and all of those movements that come in to infiltrate the church. But yeah, John, that's our comment.
So, I mean, look, Brian was right. It came out of Latin America. And of course, we had Pope Francis, who came from, where was it? Argentina,
yeah.
And he was a rank Marxist, leftist, liberation theology guy. He was terrible. And Brian, you remember he came to Bethlehem back in, 2014? Early on, he made the trip. He made the obligatory, trip to the separation barrier, and he put his hand on the wall and the fake tears and all this. Then he went to Manger Square, though, and he does a mass in Manger Square, the oldest church in Christendom, I think. And he does a mass there in front of a mural which has the three wise men are Pope John the 23rd, Pope Paul the 6th, and Pope John Paul the 2nd. And Mary and others, their women they look like they're dressed in a burqa. Joseph has a Palestinian keffiyeh on, and then there's the manger with the baby Jesus and a Palestinian keffiyeh.
Yeah. And surrounding that square on all sides were murals that you might not have seen on TV, but they were classic paintings from the life of Jesus and his death that would be cut in half. And on one side, you would see the classic painting, and on the other side, you would see the depiction of Palestinians. And so it equated to
so it'd be like
of,
Jesus carrying his cross, and it would
right.
be a Palestinian.
Yeah.
It was the other half of the picture.
Yeah, do a Google search. You'll see these things. And they surrounded the square. And, you know, Pope John said nothing about this. It was a they co-opted the gospel. They co-opted the message of Jesus. And they said,
well, it's not like he couldn't see the stuff on the mural behind him.
No, yeah. Yeah.
Unless he was blind. I mean, we know he's spiritually blind, but, you know, come on, you know, open your eyes.
Yeah, that's, by the way, I wrote an article about that. You may know this, but I wrote an article about it. And then was a couple months later, I was living in a hotel in Bethlehem, and I was picked up by the Palestinian Authority police. And they took me in for questioning and said, you know, we don't like the things you write. I had written an article for the Jerusalem Post about that. And and I said, well, it's an opinion piece. You write a different opinion, you can publish it. But they said your life's at risk and you need to leave. And people are very unhappy with you. I said, really? Who? Because I was getting along fine here and there. And in any case, they said, oh, Christ at the checkpoint people, both locally and nationally, have complained about you. So my fellow Christians who supposedly are anti-violence.
You mean the brothers that would be part of the brothers that wrote this letter?
These dear brothers and sisters are the ones who turned me over to the Palestinian Authority police and had them threaten my life. I was I was encouraged to leave. And in fact, because things were heating up between Israel and there were 3 boys that had been kidnapped, and we thought they might still be alive at that point. But in fact, we later found out they'd been murdered right away. But this was causing a lot of tension. And so anyway, that they said it was fellow Christians that were coming after me. And by the way, I think this is very instructive because what we saw at Christ at the Checkpoint a number of years ago, and we're seeing more and more today, is that this ideology, this Christian ideology, theology, is not targeting Jews. It's targeting those of us who stand with the Jews, those of us who support Israel, and do so because of what the biblical mandates. And so if they can demonize us and take away that support, then they weaken Israel. But they're coming, the target is, we're the target. And that's not going to change. More and more and more, they're coming after us. And this is coming from people who say they are believers in Yeshua.
Well, it's interesting because the response to this was, I sent Brian a copy of the article this morning from a magazine called The American Conservative.
Yes.
That's, I believe it was founded by Pat Buchanan, who is a rabid anti-Semite. And Diana West look up Diana West and Patrick Buchanan, and you will get one of the best analyses and takes down of ideological roots of somebody like Patrick Buchanan, who, by the way, back in the late 1990s, Patrick Buchanan was very critical of Israel all the time. He hated Jews. And there's a video out there, I've played it, of Tucker Carlson on C-SPAN criticizing Patrick Buchanan for his anti-Semitic views.
Yep.
And we shouldn't tolerate this in American politics. And now Tucker has been
co-opted.
He's channeling Patrick Buchanan.
Yep.
And Bannon's War Room, that's big on the MAGA media side, the Make America Great Again, pro-Trump. But they've become very anti-Jewish. Marty G. Taylor Greene, Steve Bannon, I don't care what he says. And they have this guy on all the time. His name is Kurt Mills. He's the editor of the American Conservative. He hates Jews so much, everything becomes a Mossad operation. It's like a canard that he throws out there all the time. He's just a miserable little guy. And anyway, he runs this magazine. They published this article about how great this letter is. Brian, where's the guy that wrote the article from?
Well, he's from Bethlehem. He comes right out of Bethlehem.
So it's Christ at the checkpoint, exerting, and we always say it's just a little conference. It's in Bethlehem. Right. Nobody pays attention to it, but I think that's a very naive way to approach it. I've been to one of their conferences, so I know. There's another one. There's one coming up in what, June?
Coming up soon, yeah.
Anyway, you haven't got your invitation yet?
I could go, but I'm not going to. There are others now that can step in and make the same arguments, because it has taken such. It is so. What's the word I'm looking for? It has become so inflexible and so utterly opposed to Israel. My concern is that any kind of exposure that I might get by attending is just going to further is going to work to their benefit.
And they'll usually bring in somebody.
They have.
They brought in like.
I don't think they're going to do that anymore.
Yeah, who was I'm trying to think. The guy from Wheaton, Gary Bird.
Gary Bird, yeah, he's not at Wheaton anymore, but yeah.
Yeah, he had to. I think he had sufficiently ruined that place, so he had to move on to some other place or retire. By the way, while I'm thinking about it, I'm telling you a story. So I'm on an airplane going to California, and I always get the aisle seat because I'm a big, tall guy. And a guy sits down next to me, very distinguished, older guy, probably late 70s. And I said, so where are you from? Grand Rapids. Oh, what do you do? And he says, well, I'm a retired professor emeritus of Old Testament at one of the Reformed seminaries in Michigan. Really? I just was in Israel. Isn't Israel wonderful? And he kind of looked at me, Brian. I don't know if I told you this. He kind of sniffs and he goes, I said, how many times have you been to Israel? And he goes, Israel? I've been to Germany where all the real stuff happened.
Wow.
He's a professor of Old Testament. So we have a mutual friend, and he has an interesting tagline that he's used in a lot of his talks. The first Christians were Jews. The last Christians will be Jews. And I think that's very biblical and interprets prophecy correctly. But I've added another line onto that. The first heretic in the Christian era was Marcion, who rejected the Old Testament. And the last heretics will be Marcionites. So I think that's certainly the trajectory that we are on. So, Christ,
John, just quickly, with the whole emerging church movements, with all of that, they have, in many ways, I know over here, have pushed all that, pushed the irrelevance of the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that Brian McLaren went to Christ at the Checkpoint at one time. And of course, there was a very famous talk by a guy who I don't know if he still is, the Bible Answer Man, Hank Hanna.
Oh, yeah. I was at that conference.
And bowed at the Christ at the Checkpoint altar. Right. Did just a horrific talk.
He slaughtered Christians who support Israel. Look up the article I wrote in the Jerusalem Post about him and what he said. It's what he said and what he did is just was mind-blowing. Even the people at the conference after he spoke were silent. It was so visceral and such an open attack against Christians who stand with Israel from the Bible Answer Man that people didn't have anything to say for a minute. It was like stunned silence at Christ at the Checkpoint.
And I believe, Brian, if I have my timeline of Hank Hanegraaff correct, it was after that appearance at Christ at the Checkpoint. Might have been just before it. Big ceremony where he converted to Eastern Orthodox Church.
I don't know.
No, he did. I mean, he did convert to
I don't
Eastern
know
Orthodox.
when it happened.
And so I'm looking at this letter. So I want to ask you about this letter again real quick. So there's a lot of discussion, like who wrote the letter, who didn't write the letter. And my point is, I don't care who wrote it. It's out there, and let's deal with the substance of the letter. And then people say, well, no, we shouldn't divide. Listen, this is a hill to die on for me.
Yes.
What this letter says.
Yes.
And I said, pretty sure October 8th in my prophecy update as things were unfolding in Gaza, I said the issue of Israel, because I could see where it was going already on social media. The issue of Israel would be the most divisive issue in the evangelical church until Jesus returned. And I think that's unfortunately turning out to be correct. So,
John, I want to throw something in here. You sent me a tweet that I have promoted.
Oh, yes.
By Resurrection Barbie.
Insurrection Barbie.
I'm sorry. Insurrection Barbie.
One of the great Twitter handles of all time.
Oh, John, she's brilliant.
She gives the most thorough biblical response to this anti-Christian Zionism that I've seen, and it's wonderful. It's a great resource. I encourage you to post a link to it in this so that people can see. It's two-part tweet, so there's part one, part two, and it is superb.
It is I shared it with our friend Mark Dumasani Washington, and it's like Dumasani did a masterclass on taking down Tucker Carlson in Tablet magazine after he had that ridiculous interview with Munther Isaac. Yeah. Everything he said was 100% correct, the way that was handled. And I said him this, and he goes, this is like a master class in defending Christian Zionism.
Yes.
I don't know who she is. Her handle is @defiantly_free. I love that one too. But she goes by the name, her account name is Insurrection Barbie.
Isn't she also the lady that revealed all the training that citizens are having up in Minnesota to stop all the ICE agents going in there and arresting people?
She is one of a number of accounts. And Brian, you may not know this, but I always am reluctant to make too big of a statement because I do have some people that follow me, but I don't know how to describe what's going on in Minneapolis and Minnesota right now, other than it is the very beginnings of a civil war in America. Mm-hmm. The James O'Keefe posted yesterday, Brian, I don't know or if you guys saw this.
Yes. He
posted that he was in there. He went to the area near the shooting. He said they were watching. Somebody had gotten them access to the signal chats of the people that are organizing these protests. They were watching his car. They were tailing his car. And it was like a secret agent operation that as one dropped off, another one immediately started following him. They're tracking all the license plates of ICE agents. They're going to hotels, getting the hotels to not allow ICE agents to stay there. They come from out of town. They're tracking them. They're following them everywhere. They're instigating these incidents. And so anybody, look, you can go through, I told someone this morning, you can go all through the freeze frame analysis of shooting that occurred yesterday or with the lady a week or so ago. You're missing the context of everything that's going on. They're in the middle of a war zone. You need to deal with those facts first. I don't know the answer to it. I believe that there will be a military response is being planned by the Trump administration. I have some information to suggest that. But this was all this left-wing, Soros-funded everything. And I haven't, there's all these NGOs that are behind this.
Yep.
And I've seen the same pictures that happened with BLM and the George Floyd stuff. There's these like supply trucks bringing pallets of stuff in to support the protesters. This is all planned. And I keep going back in my mind. I have to unpack this myself. My suspicion is, and I'm pretty sure this will bear out to be correct, if you remember, as Obama was leaving office in 2016, there was an announcement of an organization that he had formed. It was going to be headquartered out of DC, called Organizing for Action. Mm-hmm. And I think when we start to unpack this, and Valerie Jarrett and all these the other person that she served as the ambassador, Susan Rice, who was the ambassador to the UN for a while. These NGOs got a lot of funding from the big financial settlements, in my understanding. All those billions of dollars that banks paid to settle the 2008 financial crisis were laundered through to these left-wing NGOs, and they have massive amounts of money to fund this insurrection.
When you say people like Susan Rice to prick people's memories, let's not forget Benghazi. Let's not forget her amazing sort of tour that she did in the media. I'm saying amazing with a total sarcasm, again, to lie about various events that we were called conspiracy theories at the time, and where weapons end up. But no, John, you're absolutely right in regard to how this is all planned as a insurrection there. It's horrendous.
So she talks about in here in this article that you can see here today, the complete picture, how Obama built it, but Biden funded it, and China weaponized it. The $1 trillion fraud pipeline, how a humanitarian system became a cash machine for the NGOs and the Democratic Party. And I'm telling you, folks, we are so far down the road on this. It's almost, it's hard to grasp how to respond to this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is very, very bad.
And there's one other thing we don't have time to go into, but it's to me, it's perhaps the biggest story that has developed in the last 10 days, and that's this Board of Peace. And its charter, and it is a charter that is creating an organization that is intending to compete with, if not replace, the United Nations, that has a chairman who is appointed for life and actually has final say over all the interpretation and actions of this organization. And the only way a new chairman can come into being is if the current chairman appoints the next one. And the only way the current chairman can be deemed unfit is if there's a 100% vote saying that he's not unfit to serve. So you have a structure in place now where one person can perpetually be in control of some of the greatest despots of the world.
Absolutely.
And be in an unelected position to do so.
And so I'm looking at the picture here. The guy on the left, I think he's like one of the Stan republics in Central Asia. Behind the lady in the red dress is the foreign minister of Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. You have Milel from with the blue tie from Argentina. And you go down all the way to the right. You have the guy from Azerbaijan. I don't remember his name. And then two to the left of the guy from Azerbaijan, you can just see his head sticking over the shoulder, is Fidan, who is the foreign minister of Turkey.
Yeah.
And I would urge you, go follow Erdogan's X feed. Go follow Fidan's X feed. Go follow some of these Turkish guys, because this Turkey thing is huge.
Yes.
In all of this. And there's somebody missing. I don't know if he's on the Board of Peace or not. Bibi Netanyahu.
He's joined.
Okay.
He has joined the Board of Peace. And
Okay.
after Israel said, we can't bear to have Turkey and Qatar come in and have any kind of say over Gaza, big uproar in the Knesset. The next day he joined. And the argument for the reasons that are given is that he feels it's better to be on the inside and make a difference than to be on the outside and subject to edicts that might come down from the Board of Peace.
But Brian, if those edicts come down that Israel disagrees with, then they should just disagree with them.
I think they will. I think Israel will do it, but he has joined the Board of Peace. And of course, any edicts that come down have to be approved by the chairman. So as long as that's Trump, Israel's probably okay.
It's interesting if you look at the logo. It sort of replaces the UN world sphere with the Western Hemisphere. And I will also show you one other thing. The U.S. released through the Department of War, released just today. Let me see if I can find this thing. There we go.
Yeah. Very interesting on that last logo, John. I can't even see Europe. It's as though we don't exist.
You can see Greenland, but not Europe.
Yeah, and also Israel and the Middle East. It's as though we all don't exist.
Classic Americanism. We are the world, right?
I know that's why you have the World Series, but no one else.
I'm for that. Okay,
I'm not. Right, I'm not including Brian in that context. We were saying this the other night, and of course, I know you can't pronounce aluminium or spell center right. I'm not including Brian in that at all. Right, but
well, you all know what we're talking about. That's my point.
Mm.
So you see this is the new Board of Peace from the Department of War. And not the Department of War 2026 National Defense Strategy. And it has some good things in it, but I want to take you over here to one. So it goes through and it mentions Israel very favorably, like a favorite ally. That's good. There's an article on the front page of the Jerusalem Post this morning about that. But here it is, the security environment. What's the picture? It's the same thing that led to the logo on the thing. And there you see South America, Central America, US, Canada, and Greenland up there.
Isn't the title wrong? Shouldn't it be say the Don Rowe law?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I mean, the imagery used, I believe, near the end of this thing is there we go. Conclusion. It's George Washington.
You have to bring up Christmas Day, don't you? You have to bring
crossing the Delaware.
Yeah,
great moment in world, not just American, but world history.
I don't blame you. I think we were all half asleep. But yeah.
John, can you send me that? Can you send that to me, please?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, so I'm gonna, folks. I think we're going to kind of wrap this up because we've been going
2 hours.
2 hours and 1 minute, and I appreciate all your time. So follow Brian, follow Mark, follow Olivier. I know Olivier and I are recording something tomorrow. I don't know when it'll be posted. I have other interviews this week. We'll have a technology roundtable on February 11th. March 11th, I'll be out at Rock Harbor Church in Bakersfield. And I'm doing something with Tom Hughes at 412 Church in Temecula on Sunday, March 8th. And I'll be back out west for a conference with Tom and Kurt Reed and I don't know, some others in Las Vegas, March 20th to 22nd. Also, I've got an Israel tour in the fall. Please sign up for that if you're interested. I will just say my little marketing thing here. I think you'll find it to be a little bit different than most tours. We will spend most of our time in the heartland. Admittedly, you're not going to get to some places that other tours go. You're not going to get, we probably won't go to Masada, okay? But you'll go to Hebron, which hardly any tour goes to. It's going to be during Sukkot again. We'll be doing the Pilgrimage Road, be doing some things in Israel. And I forgot that it was hopefully to have somebody from Israel join us, but he was out looking at a special archaeological site, and I will do a separate thing with him from Jerusalem. I won't identify him right now, but they were down at Gilgal, which is a very significant footprint, one of the footprint cities from the conquest. And Aaron Lipkin's done a lot of good work on that, as well as some other archaeologists. So anyway, so there's a lot going on, a lot to talk about, and I will be doing something on the technology part of Davos, which I think is incredibly significant. And I hope I hope all of you people can appreciate that this is a very, very difficult time. We are entering I'm trying to remember the quote from my friend Chuck Missler. We are entering a time about which the Bible says more than it did about any other time in history, including the time when Jesus climbed the hills of Galilee and Israel and Judea. We're really at a time where the Bible talks more. And I do really believe we are at that time. How quickly this goes, I don't know. So any final thoughts? First Mark, then Brian, and we'll let you all go.
This is not a hobby. This is our lives. This is what's happening. We may go to conferences and all the rest. That's great. But this is actually happening and unfolding. And John, thank you for letting me be here today. It's been great. It's been great to see Brian and also meet Olivier. And just to say, Sutherland Report, find me there. YouTube 5161. And also, there's a new website, ministry with a dear friend of mine, Nathan Barnard, which is dialogues.org.uk. I'll send you the links, John. We need to be praying about this conference that's happening that Brian talks about with Mother Isaac or whatever the bloke's name is. We need to be praying about that and all that's going on there. And also with what's happening in Minnesota and Minneapolis. And pray for the UK, please. We need it. Thank you.
By all means, pray for Israel, and don't just look at Israel as a country from the Bible, but as people. We're real people living here, loving here, and it's not just an idea. These are the family of God. The Jews are the uniquely chosen family of God, and. So pray for us, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I'm doing, my video updates are now available to everyone, non-subscribers as well as subscribers, on YouTube. And the YouTube channel is called Israel Update. And so it's at Israel_update is the name of the channel. So you can see my reports there. And I've got one I've got to submit tomorrow that will be coming out on Tuesday.
You want to give us a teaser on that one, or?
I don't know what it is yet. I'll see.
Oh, so it's one of those. It's sort of like studying for the test at the last.
Yeah, we'll find out tomorrow.
I would highly recommend. I'm going to try to get an interview with him also, Dr. Eric Mandel.
Yes.
It was a superb interview. Mainly, I think you focused on the Iran situation and how that was going to go. And he's a very unique, special, brilliant individual. I think he should call it, he's a surgeon, so he should maybe title his channel "Dissecting the Truth" with Dr. Eric Mandel or something like that.
Well, he's an eye surgeon, so you have a lot of other puns you could play with, like
that's right, yeah,
seeing the world clearly, correcting the vision, whatever.
The apple of the eye.
The apple of God's eye, exactly. Yeah.
John, can I just give another shout out, as it's a huge media day, 5 hours I think I'll be doing. I'm then hosting for Connecting the Dots. Find that, please. But I've got a dear friend of mine. I've got Nathan on, Arthur on, theologians from this side of the pond, and then my dear friend Stephanie Potts from your great state, who's coming on.
From Ohio.
From Ohio, but she's just written a book.
Yeah, she's not going anywhere else today, so she'll be around.
So she may as well spend 2 hours with me as I'm hosting that. But it's just to join across the pond and look at why the church is where it's at and some of these influences that we've even mentioned today. But yeah, thanks, John. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. And again, everybody, thanks for listening. Look on the link, share, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notification and everything. And I'm going to process this, and later today I'll repost it under the regular tab like we do each week. And if there's anybody you'd like to see us interview or something like that, you can get that to me through the comments or through the our great moderators, Stacy, Veronica. I see some of them here, so doing great job. I'll tell you how good the job is. I don't have to deal with it at all. That's how great a job they're doing. That's like the ultimate compliment. So anybody, God bless, pray for the people here throughout the United States. It's a pretty bad storm. Like I said, I got up there about 2 inches. I came down here, there 10 or 11. So I got up at 4, maybe a couple inches. I came down here at 9 o'clock. There were about 11. It's been snowing ever since. It's supposed to snow until about 10 or 11 tonight, taper off a little, then kick back up tomorrow. But then Tuesday night, we're supposed to have wind chills, real field temperatures of between 5 to 35, 38 below zero from Tuesday evening all the way through Friday evening. That's
below zero. That's below zero Fahrenheit, not centigrade.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I was talking to our friend Roddy at Christchurch, and he was trying, well, I'm so used to centigrade. And at minus 40, there's a unity between the Fahrenheit and centigrade scales.
Yeah.
Suffice it to say, they're both very cold. So if I say it's minus 10, that's like minus 28 centigrade.
Exactly. Yeah.
People in Israel would die.
Well, Carl, our dear friend Carl Tigrib up in Canada, 2 days ago, minus 31. It should be minus 35 today. I don't know how they cope.
And our friends Audrey and
Brian,
exactly in Edmonton.
Yeah.
So, I love the conference I did in Calgary, but it was in May, and that was great. The snow was still in the mountains, and it was actually in the 90s in Calgary. It was kind of weird. So anyway, everybody, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
By the way, next week I'll be doing both the sermon first hour and the prophecy update. In addition, if I'm not going anywhere else this week, so I'll probably have time to do something this week here on my own, or get somebody else involved, Jonathan Spire, somebody like that. We appreciate that. Next week's sermon will be on Jesus, the rejection of Messiah at Nazareth, Luke chapter 4. Very, very important passage from both a historical and prophetic standpoint. So you might want to watch that. That's FBC, Fellowship Bible Chapel, next Sunday morning at the 9:30 hour. So anyway, God bless everybody. I'm going to click the live stream, guys. I'll talk to you on the other side. Everybody, God bless and have a good day.